Elect Mike Landers, Sylacauga City Council District 1 in the August 26th municipal election. Joining us this morning is Mike Landers. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Jimmy Dale. You know, I always love to come on to see you because it's old home week when we get together.
It is, no doubt about it. First thing, for folks who may not know, Mike was involved in an accident back a month and a half or so ago. What's an update on that?
Well, the update is that there are 2 or 3 spots on my body that don't hurt now. For a while, I hurt everywhere. And it was a very serious accident. I had a fall off my roof and broke my back in 2 places and broke some ribs and had some internal bleeding, but got extra good care here at Coosa Valley Medical Center when I went in. Then was life flighted over to UAB to the trauma center and again had excellent care. But what was most impressive about all that, and it's amazing, you don't know how many folks are sending up those strong prayers for you. We got so many calls and we got so many cards and letters and even gifts coming in through the mail. And I don't just mean locally. I don't know if you remember years ago when the Williamson brothers had a barbecue restaurant.
Right.
Danny and Larry sent me enough barbecue to feed an army. Packed in dry ice. I've had all kind of gifts come in, and it's just been wonderful, and I appreciate it. But I want the people out there to know something. That's one of the reasons you haven't seen me at your door is because I hadn't been able to walk. And I'm getting around better, and I'm having therapy regularly. And Dan Schnabel and Ben Donahue are doing a wonderful job. And you go there too, by the way.
Yeah.
But they're killing me. It hurts sometimes when I leave, but I just want folks to know I appreciate the prayers, I appreciate the good wishes, and just to know how many friends are out there and how the Lord works.
You're no stranger to the political arena. You had talked about initially maybe running for mayor, and then you decided I'm going to run for City Council District 1. Why District 1, and why did you not run for mayor?
All right, that's a good question. District 1, of course, is where Pam and I live. We live out on West Magnolia Drive, and I got to looking, and I felt like that out of the candidates, the 4 candidates that were running for mayor, and I'd like to think that they're all my friends, but I felt like that there was a candidate among them that the people could get behind, and I don't know which candidate it is any more than you do, but I felt like there was adequate representation among that group that we could find the right mayor. And so then I looked and I knew that we were going to have a vacancy in our district. And as you know from your years covering politics and reporting on politics, the council in a small town really has the power. You know, a vote by any 3 of them and they can burn the courthouse down if they want to. I hope they don't, but they could. They can certainly spend your money if they want to. And the mayor actually in a small town has less power than the council in many ways. And so I thought, you know, here's an opportunity to do something for my district and to do something for Sylacauga. And as you know, I've watched the council and you've watched it, and it's been a little bit dysfunctional. It's been dysfunctional in that there's been a lot of infighting, and then sometimes I got the impression either through watching coverage in the media or in going down there at times myself, it wasn't user friendly to the constituency. You know, sometimes it seems that folks forget who they're working for and who's paying their salary. And I don't ever want that to happen again here. Sylacauga, we don't need to make decisions except in the light of day, because one of the criticisms that you hear so much about what's happening at City Hall is they don't want any transparency down there. Well, I'm all about being transparent, and that's what I've said before. I don't want to make the decisions about what's going to happen in a council meeting the day before. If there's somebody there that's got a gripe or a beef or an opinion, we need to listen to them. I may not agree with them, but then I may learn something from them.
You actually aren't running against any opponent in District 1. You're actually running because you think you can help our city.
Absolutely. And you know, Jimmy, Pam and I have been blessed, and knock on wood, and this is not wood, but knock on wood, I don't need a job. Pam and I have been blessed financially. We've been blessed with our health, even though I had a health scare recently. The Lord's been good to us. But I want to finish out my lifetime by doing something good, and I think this may be a way to do it.
So let's talk about District 1, and let's talk about the mayoral and council forum from a few days ago. First of all, let's go to the forum. What did you take out of that forum from District 1?
Well, the biggest issue that is immediately on people's mind in District 1 is drainage issues. And there have been a lot of drainage issues out there. But now that's across the community. And one of the things that I said is that the downtown drainage and those issues out there in District 1 may be a little bit bigger than we can solve by ourselves. We may have to get the state of Alabama involved through
Explain that.
Well, there are some programs, some community development grants that are out there through ADECA. Also, and I've talked with Senator Katie Britt about this, there are some options that we might have to resort to where we get the Corps of Engineers in here to develop a plan for us to get this cleaned up, because this flooding downtown, every time we do a new project downtown in terms of on 21, and they continue to build the street up, and they continue to mound up 21, and you know, that's a state highway, so we don't get to, the state tells us what to do with Highway 21 with Broadway.
Right.
But we can't continue just to make it higher and higher and deeper and run the water off into the businesses down there. And we've got to get that handled. But the other thing that, aside from drainage in District 1, that everybody talks about is accountability down there. They're just tired of the fussing and the feuding. And then there's another thing that's an undercurrent to all this, but this is an undercurrent everywhere, and that's violence, especially gun violence. And it's tragic and it's sad, but what I said the other night, and I believe this, I think we have a good police force here, and I think they do a good job. I think we have a great fire department here. I think the first responders in this community are all wonderful. But you got to change hearts and minds to get away from this violence. People are too quick to go to the gun, or they go to violence to resolve issues, and you can't do that. Now, this is happening all across the country, but we've got to get into the homes and into the schools to correct this, and that's where that problem lies. But let me say one more thing that I think is really important, and we didn't talk about this a lot at the forum because so much territory to cover and so many candidates. Oh, and I do want to thank local media, because I think that's a wonderful event, because if it doesn't do anything else, it's hard in a 3-minute soundbite to produce a lot of information, but what it does is it puts a name to a face, and you get to look and you get to see an ugly old man like me up there and say, well, he may not be the best looking one, but he talked pretty good. So, you know, that's what I hope they took away from me, was that I may not be pretty, but I'm got pretty good sense. And if they took that away, that's a bonus. But economic development, we hear a lot of the candidates talk about economic development. But now, economic development, in my mind, is not another chicken franchise. It's not another fast food restaurant, because that does not create sustainable jobs that folks can buy a home with that money, or they can buy a new car with that money. Nothing wrong with any honorable work, and you and I growing up at Fayetteville know that, and I've done it all, from sweeping out the back of the store to going with my Uncle J.D. to pick cotton, but you've got to have more economic development, and we've got a resource here, the calcium carbonate industry, and most folks don't know this. They say, well, Honda must be the highest paid jobs in the county. That's not true. The highest paid labor and industrial employees in this county are right out here on Fayetteville Road at Embry's and Omnia. And we need to develop that, because we've got the shingle plants here. We've got the 2 plastic plants, Plastical and Heritage Plastics here. But we need to bring in folks that manufacture paint, that manufacture medications, that manufacture consumer products like toothpaste, that manufacture building products like gypsum board. Because one of the problems with calcium carbonate is because of its bulk and its weight and the shipping cost. Well, if they were located here and creating jobs for our local community, they could cut out that shipping cost and that inventory cost, just like the shingle plants have and just like the plastic companies have. So I'd like to see a focus on growing what we have here. Now, if you grow really good jobs, all the retail jobs come. The car dealers come, the home builders come, the fast food comes, the clothing stores come, because folks got money.
And we see that all around us in other parts of the state of Alabama happening.
Exactly. And if you can get a strong industrial base in place, the sky's the limit. And let me mention one more thing. And I sometimes think folks maybe take for granted the things that get done right here in town, but what Margaret Morton and SAFE are doing down there is incredible. Because how many times have you heard, boy, we need to get that mill village cleaned up. We need to do this and we need to do that. Well, the problem with that is, because of the influence that Avondale Mills had, and because of the great strength they had in wielding their power, that was never part of Sylacauga. It's part of Talladega County. And the problem with that is that we had no control over how it developed and what happened to it. And so now that Margaret is down there with her programs and her workforce development and her training center and her business incubator that's coming online, then we're going to have a chance to renew that area.
Mike, I don't know if everybody fully grasps the importance of that Margaret and her staff is doing there.
Well, I'll tell you why it's important for many reasons. The first being it puts a focus on Sylacauga, and Margaret is masterful at bringing in grants from not just government but corporate grants. She can find those grants, and once you get the grant pipeline started, and this is one of the skills that I bring to the table for the council and for the city of Sylacauga. I've spent a large part of my career working as a lobbyist and as a political consultant. Got a lot of connections that I've built in over a lifetime in Montgomery and in Washington. Well, everybody knows that the mother's milk of politics is money, federal money and state money. Well, I've got access to those people that can help us do that. Well, Margaret is doing that. Margaret's very efficient at that. But what's significant about Margaret's program is she is going to put a camera on Sylacauga so that folks can see what we've got, and she's going to do a great service because it's going to be workforce training and workforce development for the entire state right here. And she's going to do some business incubation down there. She's going to grow small businesses. I've seen that done very effectively in the large cities. For instance, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you and I remember when the old Sears store was downtown Birmingham on 3rd Avenue. Well, the city of Birmingham took that huge Sears store and turned it into a business incubator. Well, what a business incubator is you have a small business. You can't afford to go out here and rent you a huge office location for your new business. But what you do is you rent you a space there. It's a subsidized space. And you commit then, if your business is successful, to go out into the community and mentor and develop other businesses in that town. Well, Birmingham's been very successful at that. I'll tell you a good example of a business that started in a business incubator is the urgent care out here, Main Street Urgent Care. Sam Kalichkison absolutely started that in 2 offices in the old Sears building in that incubation program, and now it's one of the largest standalone medical providers in the state of Alabama, and it started right there in Birmingham.
District 1 itself, what areas does that encompass, Mike?
District 1 comes from along Highway 21. It covers the neighborhoods like Valley View. It covers the neighborhoods up on Lang Road. It goes across the street. You've got some people over in Oldfield in that area. It goes on out to Fairmont. Then it turns left and goes down Odina Road. It goes up to Collins Bend, past the country club, up Arco Dairy Road, and actually there's some annexed properties out in the Sycamore area. So it is a large geographical area, and it's the largest by population district in Sylacauga.
That brings me to this point, a topic that was discussed. I know that it caught your ear as well about the new Parks and Recreation facility that's going to be built right there off of Broadway. And it was brought up about the security of the kids crossing, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me tell you, that was a decision that was made, and a couple of the candidates properly addressed this aspect of it. It was well advertised as to where the location was going to be, and they wanted public input. And I actually went to a couple of those hearings, and not many people showed up. And they sent out the notices. They posted them on the reader board down there at the City Hall, the sign. Then they included mail-outs with everybody's utility bill so that everybody in Sylacauga would get a notice of that. And many people didn't show up. But the problem that I have with it is, first, that area is going to have a lot of security attention because it's in a blighted area. And I don't like to say blighted area, but some areas are blighted because of what's around them and what's happened in them, and decline over years in the area. The other is, one of the things that we should be highly concerned about when we look at recreation programs is, I've always had a pool for my kids and grandkids at my house. Again, Pam and I have been blessed. So it never bothered me. But let's suppose that we're trying to serve an underserved population, and especially disadvantaged children. And I don't mean of any particular race. I mean disadvantaged children, white children, black children, whatever. But, they've got to get there. Well, now the problem is the biggest concentration in that particular area of disadvantaged people may be across Maine and may have to cross 21 to get there. Now, how do we get those children over there to a pool safely? That's a big concern. And we can't build an overpass, a pedestrian overpass, because the state's never going to allow us to do that. One of the candidates mentioned a shuttle service, and I think that's where it's going to have to go, because we cannot allow the kids. Another problem with 21 is the state doesn't like to allow you to put traffic lights up because it restricts the flow of traffic. By the time you have the traffic lights at the school, by the time you have the trains that cross and stop, and by the time you get down to Fort Williams, traffic is backed up. And you know it too, and so probably a shuttle system is going to be the way to do that. But I wish there'd been a better location. But that was the one that was chosen.
And it's done.
It's a done deal. Yeah. The engineering's underway. I'll tell you something I did hear the other night that kind of bothered me, and I don't know if you caught this or not, but one of the candidates said that they're again looking at the old Food World building, maybe to move the police over there and the court system over there. I can't imagine how that's a good idea, because it sits right against the train tracks. And there was a man that was over there doing an inspection a few years ago, an engineer, doing an inspection on that building when it was possibly being considered as a site for a recreation facility. Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but he fell through the roof and tragically lost his life. That building has been, several things have happened to that building. All the plumbing and wiring have been stolen out of it. The top of it has rusted. The height of it is wasn't suitable for gymnasium. It'd be suitable for a courtroom, but I think that what you do with that piece of property is you demolish that old building and start fresh. And then I have another concern. I'm not sure that that's the right area to direct your police and court system to, because there again, you've got a large piece of property that could be developed, but you've got to clean some stuff up around it too. And so I hear those ideas, and as if I were on the council and I were talking to you out there, the voters, or if I were on the council and I was talking to you as a constituent, I would tell you, when you hear about something and you get a notice about something, come to the meeting. Come on down and let's talk, because the only way I'll know what you think is for you to tell me. You got to tell me, and I'll pass it on and make sure somebody else knows. And if enough of you will come out and you're opposed to where a building's going to be built or the use of a building, politicians being politicians, they'll find another way. But you've got to make your will known. And that's one thing that I think the council has failed on. They haven't been user-friendly enough. Folks say, oh, I don't want to go down there, I don't want to be insulted, or they're not going to do anything anyway. Well, I want to change that. They ain't going to do nothing anyway. As I said at the forum, if it takes 4 hours to have a meeting, I didn't hire on because I needed $800 a month. There was a time I needed $800 a month, but it ain't today. So if you see me on the council and you elect me to the council, I'll be there because I want to be there to help Sylacauga. I don't care if it takes all day and all night to have a council meeting. I ain't got anything else to do.
With that thought in mind, if you are elected city council in District 1 in the August 26th municipal election, what do you pledge to not just the citizens of District 1, but to the citizens of Sylacauga? What do you pledge as a city councilman for our city and our city growth?
Well, I'll tell you what my strengths are. My strengths would be industrial development, and that's the one thing that I'm very passionate about, because that's where I have the connections to make something happen. But the other thing that I'll pledge to you is that you, no matter what district you're from, that you will have access to the council, that you will have a fair shot at talking and not having your feelings hurt and being taken seriously, and you will have an opportunity to be heard without somebody saying, okay, I've heard all I want to hear, sit down. That's not the way you do business. That's the way you offend people, but that's not the way you do business. And that's not the way I do business, because you know my history. I grew up in a country grocery store, and a pulpwood yard, and a cotton gin. My daddy always said, and it's the truth, and the older I get, the more I know it, I don't talk to anybody, and I talk to everybody, but I don't talk to anybody that I don't learn something from. Now, I might learn something that's going to help me do better myself. I might learn something that tells me what not to do, but I still learn something. So I even learn stuff when I talk to you. And so what we got to do is, we as a council have got to listen. We got to listen to the people, because the people are what we're all about. They're the ones that are paying the bills. And I sometimes think that not just the City Council of Sylacauga, but you look at the legislature, you look at the Congress, you look at all political offices, they forget who the boss is. And the boss ain't the mayor, and the boss ain't the councilman. The boss is the man that's out there voting and paying taxes.
And that's one of your strengths, that you've had experience in these fields.
Absolutely. And I work now to, I do political consulting, and I do governmental relations consulting, and that means that I try to bring my clients, whatever their interests are, whatever their needs are, to the proper place in government, whether it's the legislature or whether it's the governor's office or whether it's a board or a committee. I'm trying to advocate for that cause for my client. Now, all that would be different in that would be the constituents in Sylacauga would suddenly be my clients, and they would be getting a heck of a bargain, because I don't hardly crank up the consulting side of the business for $800 a month. But for the city of Sylacauga, because I've been here all my life, and because I love it here, and because I plan to die here, and some folks probably would say, well, when you going to do that? And I almost did a month and a half ago.
Mike Landers, our guest this morning. Mike, a candidate for Sylacauga City Council District 1 in the municipal election on August the 26th. And for people who would say, well, is Mike Landers a yes man?
Mike Landers is a yes ma'am man and a yes sir man, because that's the way I was raised. But am I a yes man? No. I'm not a yes man. If you tell me something, I'm going to give you as good as you give me. I'm going to give it right back to you as to what I think. Now, that gives us, if we disagree, we've got an opportunity to come to terms, and you may convince me or I may convince you as to who's right. But I will never just automatically say, yes, we're going to do that, or no, we're not going to do it, because I've got to consider it. And that's one of the problems we've had in Sylacauga is deals get made and things get done and there's not the proper input. And technically, with the Sunshine Law in Alabama, which requires that government business be conducted in the open, any time that, say, and it would be 3 on a 5-member council, but any time 3 of them are on the phone together, technically they're in violation of the Opens Meeting Law, the Sunshine Act, if there's not notice that that meeting's taking place, because it's still a meeting. Just because you had it on the phone, if you get 3 of them on there, they're supposed to be letting you know what they're saying. Well, I'm not sure that always happens. So transparency, openness, accessibility, that's what we've got to have. And folks can take a lot from government if they just know what government's trying to do for them rather than to them. And that's what I want to get away from. I want folks to feel like they can come to a council meeting or they can call me and say, look, big boy, we don't like what's going on down there. Tell us why it's going on. Well, I'm going to tell you the best I know and the best I can tell you. And if I don't know, then I'll find out and I'll get back to you. But we hadn't been doing that, but we're going to do it.
Final 2 minutes with Mike Landers, candidate for Sylacauga City Council District 1. What would be 1 or 2 of the items that would be on your agenda if elected to Sylacauga City Council District 1?
The first item on my agenda is to look immediately into resolving our flooding issues. That's got to be done because it impacts our downtown merchants and it impacts my district disproportionately as well. The second thing is to develop a more user-friendly atmosphere at City Hall, to kind of pull the shades off the windows and let everybody see what's going on down there. But I think that's going to happen anyway, because I think every candidate that's running, whether they're an incumbent or whether they're a newcomer, I think every one of them knows now. They've heard it. They know that there's got to be more transparency and there's got to be more accountability. They've got to stop spending money. Sylacauga's a small town. We rely on sales tax. If a recession comes, Jimmy, sales tax dries up because there's less sales and folks got less money to spend.
1 minute why citizens in District 1 should vote Mike Landers in the election.
They should vote for Mike Landers in this next election because I have the political experience, not on the candidate side, but in the inner workings of the government side. I know how government works. I know the sources to go to get government to work for the people in Sylacauga. And I'm a country guy, but I'm an educated country guy, and I'm a smart guy. And I don't say that without humility, but you know, I'm a pretty sharp cookie when it comes to politics and when it comes to government. And I would love to share that experience. I would love to make it work for Sylacauga. I'd love to go out and die with somebody saying, you remember when old Mike was on the council? We got this done.
Mike Landers, candidate for Sylacauga City Council District 1 in the August 26th municipal election. We got more coming up after this.